the people's residence, yes, TV. Oh my gosh, we were supposed to like get on this movement and journey today at 7, but we dropped in at 7:21. I can only say the reason that we dropped at 7:21 is because 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 21. And we are located at 777, bring it, Bathurst Street. You can't come to us right now because of the pandemics, but we are coming to you in the comfort of your home. And boy, do we have a 7 plus 7 plus 7 person for you this evening. But before I go there, let me just say this, that the board and staff of a different Booklist Cultural Center acknowledge the original caretakers and storytellers of this land. The Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Métis, and the Wendat First Nations. We thank these mighty nations for allowing us to build our families, our homes, and dreams in this land. We pledge to walk hand in hand with them as we journey on the road to self-determination and social justice. So I know you're thinking, who is this person? Who is the 7 plus 7 plus 7 person? And this is no other than the artiste, and I'm going to use that term first, Jennylynd James. And I've got to tell you, one summer day, the doors of 746 back then, Bathurst Street, a different Booklist, the doors open. I did say it was a sunny day. Sun was shining, but suddenly it seemed as though the sun just went up a notch. It was not even like 12 o'clock yet, or 3 o'clock where the sun is in its brilliance. But right there in that morning, like 11-ish, between 11 and 11:30, the sun got even brighter because through the door came Jennylynd James. Oh my God. She came in with that Caribbean warmth. She came up with that spirit of determination. She came into the bookstore because she was following the wealth that came out of her country. She didn't come here for opportunity. She came to follow the wealth that was taken for her country. And she wanted to know, where did the wealth from my country go? So wherever in the world she felt that the wealth from her country had moved to, she followed it. And I remember saying to her, girl, you are like sunshine. Welcome to Canada. I am so proud that we are some of the first people to know you. And here's the thing, Jennylynd James, don't ever lose that attitude, that bravado, that beautiful sister coming rocking ever in Canada. I am pleased to report she's been here for a long time, and she has never once lost that energy and that curiosity for life. So let us welcome, clap world for Jennylynd James, author, visual artiste. And when I tell you what her day job is, y'all gonna lose your minds. Welcome, Jennylynd James.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Itah. I really appreciate the intro, and thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on the show this evening.
Oh, this is long overdue. I want to start off first by telling people, giving them a sense of who Jennylynd James is. And today I was speaking to someone and I told them about what you did in the artistic world, and they know you from your work at Harborfront Center. And then I said to them, do you know what she does in her day job or in the other part of her life? And when I told them, they freaked right out. They said, oh my God, I never know anybody who mixed that with that.
Yeah.
So tell me
Well, I tell people
a little bit of your background.
Yes. Well, what a lot of people here don't know, I was trained as a food scientist. So I have a Ph.D. in food science and molecular genetics from McGill University. And I worked as a food scientist for over 25 years. And I stopped counting now because, the years just kind of add up. But I've worked in several different countries, first in Trinidad and Tobago in food processing, in quality assurance and research and development. I've worked in the United States in the fresh fruit and vegetable industry for multinational companies, Boscovich Farms in California. They're like the 7th largest grower of vegetables in the United States. And then I worked at the Dole corporate office in Westlake, California. I was responsible for food safety and quality assurance, so all the bananas and pineapples coming into United States. So a huge portfolio, which required travel to Central and South America to visit the growers and audit their farms and pack houses, the ports where all the fruit was shipped from Latin America, and the ports where fruit was coming into United States. So I had a huge portfolio, not only quality, but recall and crisis management and that sort of thing. And then I had I left the US and had a similar role at a multinational company in Dublin, Ireland called Keeling's Multiples. And there I was responsible for a lot of fruit being imported into Ireland. And so that portfolio had me traveling throughout Europe to audit farms and pack houses. And so that's my first life. I tell you,
what I'm curious about is, here you are, this dynamic young woman in Trinidad and Tobago. What made you go into food science? What was that switch moment like, aha,
okay.
I could do that?
Well, I had studied biochemistry pre-med at McGill. And when I did my bachelor's degree and went back to Trinidad, I realized I wasn't interested in medicine. And I thought I'd find something else to do. And I stumbled across a master's in food technology, a program at St. Augustine UE campus. And I decided to do the master's degree there. And I really enjoyed food technology. And I got my first job doing research and development, new product development at National Canners. And for those who don't know, National Canners is the company that has the Matooks brand name. So, you know, Matooks, all the pepper sauce and all the chutneys and canned products and all that. So I had started, my first job in the industry was developing products for them, you know, like pickled cucumbers and canned fruit salad, things like that. And then I went on to work for Multi Foods. Their brand is Swiss, which is another brand that is exported throughout the Caribbean. And there I was responsible for their quality assurance program. So I worked with these companies for a while, and then I wanted something else, and I decided to go on and further my studies. So I went back to McGill to do the PhD. And it didn't stop there, you know, like after graduating, I moved to Florida. So I've changed countries many times. I stopped counting, but I would tell people maybe about 7 or 8 times, just trying different locations. So Toronto is the most recent stop. But I'd studied in at FAMU, Florida A&M University. I did a postdoctoral research fellowship at FAMU. And there I was introduced to post-harvest handling of fresh produce. And that's how I got into the fruit and vegetable industry and worked in that industry for 9 years. So, you know, it's a long, winding road before I ended up being a writer and an artist. So we can talk some more about that.
Right now, I'm feeling honored to know you, because in this COVID time, one of the biggest things that people are having conversations around is around the issue of food security. What is the food supply chain? What is it? Where do we too, as people of African descent, come in and out of that supply chain? So so to the world watching this segment right now, the People's Pod, the Literary Salon with Jennylynd James, I want you to know her community. If you're talking food security in the whole sector of food, here is someone who is a scientist in that sector of food. So this makes me excited how we can connect what is happening in the world, what is topical in our communities and in the country with something that's.
Yes, so what I'll tell you what I do now. I audit food processing plants in United States and Canada. So I go in, I look at their food safety programs, make sure that they're handling food safely, and I audit against international food safety standards. So that way, if they don't pass the audits, because I look at the documents, I look at employee practices, I look at the facilities, and these are large manufacturing plants, you know, like canning and baked goods, frozen foods, ingredient facilities. I go in and do audits against international food safety standards. If they don't pass, they are not allowed access to the supermarket chain, because supermarkets want to be sure that they are purchasing product from sound food processors, that they can be sure when they sell to the general public, nobody gets sick.
That's
so
right.
They need, and I'm not an inspector, you know, you have the inspectors that would go and look at people who retail food, look at food service. It's a very different role. When we audit, we don't only look at the practices, we're looking at behind the scenes in large manufacturing plants. So it's very different to food inspectors who would look at, you know, those people in the mall who handle food and all. Very different role. It goes way, way back to the primary producers on the farms, and then also in the food processing plants.
So it is right across the sector in the supply chain. This is fantastic. Now, you mentioned pepper sauce earlier on, and we had the pleasure of launching one of your first books, Escape from Ireland. And I remember pepper sauce popped up in that book and in that conversation. What led you, apart from where's the wealth going in the world, to Ireland? And then why did you decide that I'm going to write about that experience? What was that experience that's so sweet in you that you wanted to share it with the world?
Okay, so I had a very cushy job at Dole in Southern California. And the curiosity in me, you know, decided that I wanted to go to Europe to get work experience. So I had asked Dole if their European quality assurance team could give me a position. And I had gone to a meeting with that team in Prague, Czech Republic, and I asked the head of the Dole QA in Europe at that time if I could join his team, and they really didn't have a position for me. So with my character, if I hear no, then I just go off and do my own thing. So I went in search of my own job, and I had applied to a lot of positions in the UK, and an Irish company spotted my resume and asked me if I wanted to interview for a position that they had in Dublin. And I said, sure. So they flew me. In those days, you know, people would pay and fly you for interviews. Those were the days.
Yes.
They flew me from California to Dublin for this interview. It went very well, and they offered me the position. They said the only thing is, you know, within 2 months, I had to come and settle in Dublin. And I was living in California. I said, no problem. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just said, no problem. At that time, I had actually owned a house and a car and all that. So I had to sell the house, sell the car, pack everything and leave. So I managed to do it. And I do write about this in the book. But I had such a profound and life-changing experience in Ireland. I found it was the freest, if that's a word, freest experience of my life. I felt free to explore every single talent that I could possibly have. I had thought that I would always have to work for a company. In Ireland, I was pushed to be an entrepreneur by random people. Oh, you look good. You could sell stuff. You could have your own business. People, Irish people, pushed me into this whole entrepreneur realm that I knew nothing about, because all I knew was that, you know, you go to university, you study, you get a job. So I was pushed to be an entrepreneur. And so I started my own food business. And I was literally supported by Irish people selling them Caribbean food products. At first, I would import from traders in London, UK, and resell at events and markets and, you know, different events for the most part. And then one of my suppliers, I don't know if you know the Walker's Wood brand from Jamaica,
Okay.
Their factory had shut down for a short while and I didn't have products. And I decided, oh my gosh, I have a food science background. I know how to manufacture bottled products and all. I started making my own sauces. I made a pepper sauce. It was a big hit. I made a jerk barbecue sauce. I made a curry sauce and I bottled and sold under my own brand. First, it was Taste of the Caribbean. Then we moved on to Bad Boy Sauces.
Ooh, like that.
Bad Boy Sauces, great brand.
I could hear the jingle. I could hear the jingle. Yes.
Yes, yes. And I even had the opportunity to promote my sauces on the Irish Dragon's Den. That was in 2010. So everybody was delighted. It was a splash, Caribbean woman, new entrepreneur. And so I was on every TV and radio station and newspaper and all of that. Big fish in a small pond, because there was nobody like me doing this sort of thing at the time, and not many Black people there anyway. So it was quite an exciting time in my life, and I really felt free to do anything I wanted. In fact, I felt I had more mental freedom than this side of the Atlantic,
Right.
believe it or not.
Was it because you were now outside of the West and now you're seeing it from a different perspective? And I'm also curious that when the Irish soaked their blood pudding and that pudding that they love to make into your sauces, give our viewers like what they said. Show us how they faces like they put it in, and
they found everything spicy, everything, even a little bit of garlic in the sauce, not even hot pepper, just garlic. They say, oh my God, too spicy, too spicy. But the time I lived there, it was what period called the Celtic Tiger. So people had a lot of money at the time. The economy was booming. And so they were willing to experiment with food. They were willing to experiment with food that they never tasted in their lives, because they are just meat and potatoes people. They used to be. But during the Celtic Tiger, Indian restaurants moved in, and all different ethnic groups moved to the country for work, and they brought their food with them. So it was a time of great experimentation. And many people experimented. I would have sauces that taste, and even though they found it spicy, they say, oh, I'll buy this for a laugh and I'd buy that for a laugh. I was able to sell a little bottle of pepper sauce for €6 and they just buy it for a laugh.
Wow.
And, and after a while, things caught on, because I put lots of fruit, mango and all that in my sauces. So full of flavor, not just heat, depth of flavor, I would tell them.
I am speaking to a scientist, yes, making a distinction.
And I like to cook too, so that helps.
I'm curious also too about that time too. What was your take on the politics? Because we are hearing another narrative, often the narrative of Ireland and Irish great storytellers, long years of tradition, and then there's the politics of the nation. What was that like at that time for you? And how did that impact you?
So I lived in the Republic, not in the North. So in the North, it's still ruled by the British, but it was quite relaxed at the time. In fact, very relaxed, too relaxed in my opinion. But there was no distinct border, so we would drive up, back and forth freely without any hassle. It was quite easy to go back and forth. There was no border that was being patrolled or anything like that. So very, very relaxed at that time.
Yeah.
And when it came to politics, they had their political parties, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and all that. Nothing, there was no stress because the economy was booming. Okay. I don't know if anything has happened, because when I left, it was, height of recession. I left December 2010, so deep recession at that time. I lost everything. I lost my house, I lost the car, I lost the business, I lost everything, and came here to start from scratch. But so I don't know what it's like. Well, I heard now that the economy has picked back up, but when I left, things were kind of getting,
well, the beautiful
abandoned businesses.
The beautiful thing is now Toronto inherited you. And you came to us. So we benefited from that situation out of Ireland. And then I remember then we also had the pleasure of launching another book, and you alluded to it earlier, where you lived in Florida. I was also particularly fascinated about your travels into South America. And there is one particular incident you talked about where you went to a meeting and you thought, you know what, I can take off my shoes and I can be curious about of the world. Or even more importantly, I can go and see more of the essence of food somewhere in some very cool place. I'm not going to steal your thunder with that, but talk us through too. Yes, that experience.
What I'll do is just show, I'll show all the books and I'll give you a little.
Please do.
So this one escaped from Ireland when I moved to Toronto. It was March 2011 when we actually settled here. And I couldn't get Ireland out of my head. I just couldn't, you know, all the adventures there. And in fact, that's where I started painting for therapy. And so I wrote this book just to remember all the life-changing events, Escape from Ireland. Then after that, I wrote about what it was like to move to Toronto. So this one is called Goodbye Frying Pan, Hello Fire. And that title, a good friend of mine from Trinidad came up with the title for me because I'd call her all the time and tell her, oh my God, I thought things were hard when I left Ireland, but I didn't know anybody in Toronto. And I had to try and settle here. I had no credit history, no references, and no job. So this book is my survivor's book. Itah is in this book too, because she's one of the first people who helped me to display my art. I walked into her store one day and said, I'm an artist. Can you display my art? And she so generously put my art all around the store and sold my art prints. So thank you. Itah's in this book. And another one I wrote is called Red Car Long Legs. Because before I went to...
That's the one.
Yes. Before I moved to Ireland, I lived in California, worked in the produce industry, and that book talks about all the adventures, you know, visiting Ecuador, Chile, Peru, Honduras, and I would run away from work, you know, a day or two, I'd go sightseeing on my own. So I have lots of misadventures in that book. So Red Car, Long Legs, Adventures in California and beyond. And if any of the viewers interested, I'm doing readings from this on Sunday afternoon, Facebook Live at 5 p.m. this Sunday, right? So July
26th.
26th.
Yes.
So join me at Jennylynd James Writer /live, right?
Why long legs? Why red car and long legs?
Because I had a red car.
Okay.
And I have long legs.
Oh, okay. My
and
bad.
there's a whole story behind that, which I will read on Sunday.
Okay. So for those of you who are thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss this moment. No, you're not. Sunday, July 26th on Facebook Live. Yes. You're going to hear about the long legs red car.
So you'll get the full story. Now, another one I wrote, Drive. And this photo I took myself. This is from the Lookout Point in on the way to Maracas in Trinidad. And Drive talks about going back to my home country over the years for vacation, taking foreign friends, and feeling like a tourist because I left in 1992, which is a long time ago, and everything has changed. Every time I go back, something has changed. Friends have moved away, and those who are there, you know, they have moved on with their lives. So Drive is a collection of stories of this Trini expat, me, going back to my home country. The most recent publication, Where Are My Car Keys? And I read from this last week, talks about my mother and her journey with Alzheimer's disease and how our family coped over a 12-year period. So a collection of stories where we saw her slow demise, slowly, until she died eventually in January 2018.
Yes.
Okay, so this one was a form of healing for me. It helped me cope with my mom's death. So I just put everything out in writing, and I was able to kind of clear my head. It was quite therapeutic. It really was.
Mhm.
And I have the children's companion book, my first children's book, and I did the illustrations. So it's That's My Granny. So told in the voice of my nephew who watched Granny as she suffered over the years and how her character and her body changed over the years. So a good way to start a conversation.
So how do you get into the writing? You're walking, you're sitting, you're relaxing, you're on the bus, you're in your car, and an idea comes. And what made you think, I want to record my travel diaries, for lack of a better word, the biographies. I want to document. Why? What fuels that? And what do you hope to get out of that fueling for the reader and for yourself?
Right. Well, it started with Escape from Ireland, because when I moved here, I kept talking about Ireland to new people I met in Toronto. And I said, why do you keep talking about Ireland? I said, well, I was there for 7 years and I was affected profoundly, like many different things I didn't even know I could do. For example, painting. The viewers can see one of my beautiful paintings here.
Yes,
I started painting in Ireland by accident. I knew nothing about art. When I see nothing, I didn't know anything. And so the Irish boyfriend broke up with me and I was so sad. And a friend told me, go and do an art class. There's an artist who gives classes at his home, 4 or 5 people will show up. Just go do it, you'll feel better. And I said, me? I don't know about painting. But she said, go on. So I did. And the artist was from Venezuela. I don't know how come he was living in Waterford, which was a town near to where I lived. And so I signed up for a few weeks. The first thing he gave me to draw, he said, oh my goodness, you're talented. He gave me a plant to sketch. So I sketched the plant in 2 minutes. I said, there you go. Then he gave me a bowl of oranges and I sketched it. I said, this is very boring. He looked at it, he said, my goodness, you have a good eye. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to paint that. It's boring. So he asked me, what do you want to paint? I said, I want to do portraits in oil. And he said, no, that's too difficult. I said, no, that's what I want to do. And he obliged, he said, okay, bring some images that you want to paint and I'll show you how to do it. So I took Caribbean Beat magazine and also, with all the Caribbean people and carnival images. And I also took Noel Norton's photography book. And I said, I want to paint the people in these books. My people, Caribbean people, and that's how I started. Can I show you the first painting I've done? I have a copy here. I have the original. Would you like to see it?
And for people too who are listening and viewing, I hope that you note the storyteller in Jennylynd James. And when a book reads well is when the story is told well. The detail that she recalled, that she painted oranges, and all of that detail in the storytelling. Even she slid in the little boyfriend thing like fast in 30 seconds. Oh, this is so good. So here we are. And what's this again? This is one of your first paintings.
Williams, Miss Universe 1998.
Oh, yes, that's who that is. Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting her.
Painting ever.
Wow.
And I cherish it for the rest of my life because he showed me how to do the eyes and the jewelry and, so this is the first painting I ever did. And then the rest is history. Now I experiment. I'm self-taught. But
has she ever got the opportunity to see that piece? Have you ever shared that with her or she knows that this exists?
No, she doesn't know about this, but I did one of Alison Hines and I shared it with her and she loved it on Instagram.
Okay.
I'll be back in a minute.
Could you do one of me? And for those who are watching, we are at a different Booklist Cultural Center. Yes, the People's Residence TV. My guest today is Jennylynd James. This is the Literary Salon, and I am here not just with an author, but someone who is a very vibrant, also visual artist. And we are speaking about her journeys around the world and the stories that she has documented. I know that you're thinking at some point, Jennylynd is going to read some aspect from the book, Not the Red Car and Long Stories. That's on Friday. So maybe she might get a little something from one of the other books. But I also now want to take us further into the world of the visual arts and that experience. And I remembered when we first met, I was also excited that you had made cards and you had lines, you had product lines, which makes sense based on some of the things that you've shared with us of being an entrepreneur. So then take us now further into that world of the visual arts.
Yes. So as I mentioned, I started painting in Ireland and it happened quite accidentally, but I enjoyed the experience so much I continued. So when I moved here in 2011, I was still painting Caribbean people. And I signed up for an art show. I signed up for quite a few and I didn't realize what the jurying process was until I came to Toronto. And you pay to enter or submit your images to an art show and you're juried. And invariably, most people are juried out, never get to participate in the show.
You came to make history, but you become history.
Yeah, not allowed in the show. So after a few disappointments, a group of Polish artists decided to allow me to participate in their show. And so this was at Sunnyside Beach Pavilions on the lake shore. And there were at least 50 artists, and it was my first time doing an outdoor show, and it was very exciting. And I took all my Caribbean paintings, and at that time I didn't know how to display artwork. So some were on the ground, some were hanging from the side of the tent and all over. So it looked kind of like what some friends in Trinidad would call a warap. You ever heard the slang warap? Compared to the other artists who were highly skilled in displaying their work, my tent was like a warap.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay.
It sounds like haberdashery.
Yes. But anyway, it was a great experience. And one or two artists told me, "Why are you painting people?" I said, "Because that's what I like to paint." She said, "But nobody's going to buy a portrait of somebody they don't know." And I thought about it as like, oh my God, how could she say that? And I looked around and a lot of people were painting Canadian landscapes. And people were, "Oh, they're lovely. Oh, they're wonderful." And I thought, oh my gosh, I guess I better experiment with the Canadian landscape. And so I did, and I painted quite a few lakes and trees and all that. And I sold quite a few of those, but it's not what I like really. I don't get the same energy when I paint a lake or some trees. I don't feel the same energy. Another experiment I did in 2017, I painted a lot of flowers. So floral work, big experiments with pastel abstract flowers. So that's another subject that I've painted. And the last 2 years, I've been painting jazz musicians and classical musicians. So you see the one behind me, when Manu Dibango died, he is a Cameroonian saxophonist. I thought I'd do a tribute painting to Manu. So here's Manu heading up to heaven, and you have different musicians on the piano. You have Hazel Scott, you have Arturo Tapin, from Barbados. I love Arturo Tapin.
You're in the line behind me. Yes.
Esperanza Spalding, John Coltrane, and even threw in Belen Bugsy Sharp, and you have everybody else here enjoying the music.
Beautiful.
And I paint from life experiences too. For example, this one
Yes.
Ginny's Supper Club, which is in the basement of Red Rooster Restaurant in Harlem. Last July, around this time, I had done the Harlem Book Fair, right? I participated in the Harlem Book Fair. And the night after the book fair, we went to dinner at Red Rooster Restaurant because it's famous. So we wanted to check it out. And down in the basement, we had Delfeo Marsalis and
Wow.
members of the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra performing that night. I videotaped them and took photographs. And as soon as I came back, I painted my rendition of the scene that we witnessed. The music was unbelievable. So I do a lot of paintings from life experiences.
Well, but I think you are chronicler of things, and it seems as though, Jennylynd James, that wherever you go, you find a way to tell the story, to preserve story, or to document story. Oh, and what is this? This is also lovely.
Yes. Now, what we haven't told the viewers, I am also a soprano. So I sing with the Toronto Mendelssohn Choir, and we perform with the Toronto Symphony throughout the year, different concerts and recitals. And this one, these are some members of the string section of the Toronto Symphony, not the whole symphony orchestra, just the strings. So I call it the Unfinished Symphony because it's just a piece of the symphony. Violins are out, but you have the cellos and the basses, right?
And I must say that on a good night when I am changing trains at St. George Subway and I get to upstairs or downstairs platform, I see Jennylynd James and I say to her, girl, what you doing here? And she says, oh, I'm just on my way home from singing. And once again, I think of the roundedness of the holistic aspect of your life, where you are engaged truly in the art, in the visual expression, in the musical expression, in the writing of our stories.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll just show you one more.
Yes.
So these are the leads of the Toronto Symphony. So lead violinist, viola, cello, and bass.
Yes.
So this is a comical one because Maestro, there was this very funny Maestro one time, and you know, he was so funny I had to paint him because when I look at people, I actually see their caricature.
Yes.
I don't just see the person. When I look at a person, I think, oh, what's so funny about them that I must paint.
That's where that third eye comes in. But here is the thing too. The symphony right now is kind of dormant in the physical. They're doing a lot of virtual things. But I don't have an experience where from our community, we are commenting on the symphony. We live in a new world now where big organizations and big arts organizations, and I think that the symphony is desirous. They're doing a lot of new collaborative things and a lot of edgy things because the pandemics have caused us to do this. But here is, in my experience now for the first time, where we're commenting on the symphony, where we're drawing them from our perspective as we see them, not in terms of, let me paint the symphony and they kind of look like the symphony that we know, but how we interpret them as people of African descent. So I think that is pretty cool. Yes.
Thank you.
And then recently too, you have been involved in some edgy other street things. Look how your work seemed to take us back into COVID and the impact it can have on COVID. We started with food, and now we're starting with art and things to brighten up our lives. So take us now into the street art that you've been doing.
Yes, I heard about street art and this organization run by the city of Toronto to decorate the city. So all the underpasses and bridges and electric boxes around the city, there's actually funding to decorate these items, but it's competitive. So not everybody can get in. And I had applied to get into this program year after year for at least 6 years. And for the first time this year, my submission was accepted for the first time. And it was a jazz ensemble. So saxophonist, trumpeter, trombone player, and a jazz singer. And what we had to do every time you submit the application, you show how it would appear on the electric box. So these are traffic signal boxes, and the program is called Outside the Box. So 2 weeks ago, like after the meeting, they showed you, everybody was assigned a box, and my traffic signal box is out of Bloor Street West, at the corner of Auckland and Bloor Street West, just north of Kipling subway station. So if you go to Kipling, you just walk up Auckland Road, and right there at the corner, you'll see my box. And I put brightly colored instruments, the saxophone, etc. Can I share the screen? I don't know if I could show that picture. Let me see.
I saw it on Facebook, and it excited my imagination.
Yes, I could look for the picture. And, or maybe the fastest way really is to pull it up on my phone and show it there. That's what I'll do, because we'll see it faster that way. Yes, but it was quite exciting. It was my first time painting outdoors. And I don't know, can you see this?
Yeah, we can't see it. Yes.
Okay.
And if you want to see it too in the physical, if you go to Kipling Subway, Bloor Street West by Kipling, there you go. It's like we jam in.
Yes.
Yes, we jam in.
So we have the dancers, and we have the musicians.
Yes. And what's the street again that it is on?
Auckland, Aukland.
Okay, Auckland.
So, yes, as soon as you come out Kipling Station, that is Auckland Street. You walk up to Bloor,
yes,
and it's right there at the corner.
And so we can all go and take selfies at it, and
that's
post
right.
And say cool.
Art by Jennylynd James on Instagram.
Right. Look at that basis. Whoa, you brought it home. What would you say about your art? What political statements do you make through your art?
None at all. My statement is joy and happiness. I want people, when they see the art, to feel happy and feel my energy and my joy transmitting through the art, because there's enough stress in the world as it is. For those who look at news, because I don't look at news because there's always something bad. I tell people I try to avoid it. Not that I don't know what's going on, because you're bombarded constantly. But when you look at my art, you must feel at peace and you must feel happy. And that's my statement with the art.
Yeah, I would suggest that you said earlier, when you were introduced to art with your Venezuela instructor, and he was suggesting a line of things for you to draw, and you're thinking, well, no, I want to draw me. I want to draw my lived experience. So the political statement is, I am bringing the richness of who I am as a person, and not a person out of the North American experience, but I'm also bringing to the world the great leadership out of the Caribbean experience onto North America, to say, here, world, I'm here.
Yes, yeah, well, the Caribbean energy for sure. Yes. Energy and joy.
Yeah, yeah.
So very important, especially in this, these days, it's very important to transmit joy and touch people with some joy and happiness, because we don't see that much in the media.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So I know people be thinking like, oh my God, like this woman has a lot of energy. What does your ordinary day look like? Like when you wake up in the morning, what is an ordinary day in the life of Jennylynd James?
An ordinary, I don't know if there's an ordinary day. I'm trying these days to take a walk, because there's nowhere to go in terms of social activities. So I try to take a walk in the neighborhood, and if I could get a little exercise, that's how I want to start the day. Most of the time, I do positive affirmations. I am, like, I am happy. I am thankful for this. I make a list of things I'm happy and thankful for. And you know the book, The Secret.
Yes.
I have read The Secret so many times. Now my book is a pack of cards, but I still go through it because the idea is there, of saying what you want and claiming it. I have a list that I go through. I try to go through the list of what I want to accomplish. I try to go through it every day if possible. And then I say, yes, this is what I want to accomplish. And I have it. I claim it. Wow. So that's how I try to start my day. And then after that, I go through the things to do lists, which I keep adding to, I say, okay, I'll do some art, some food science project, whatever I want to accomplish for the day.
In your work as an author, what is that moment that you got feedback from someone who read your books, someone in the audience? What was that moment where you thought, you know what, the discipline of writing is not in vain? Yes, I've documented, but in this moment, my words, the pages have impacted that person. And I'm so happy that individual came and said, my efforts are not in vain. What's that moment you talk about?
Well, the first moment was when I wrote Escape from Ireland. I hired a friend in Ireland to edit the book for me. And she said that I was able to capture the essence of the Irish. And that was a huge compliment, huge, because she said I captured the good, the bad, and the ugly. And she's very vocal. I knew her from a Toastmasters group, but she's very vocal. And when she said I captured the essence, the good, the bad, and the ugly, she meant it, because she doesn't mince words. And that was a huge compliment for me. I really appreciated that. Despite, all the errors and the mistakes and all that had to be fixed, the essence. And that is what when I write about experiences, I want the words to capture the essence of the experience. So the people who are reading could capture what I was feeling or what other people in the situation felt and all that. So I try to write like that. This book, Goodbye Frying Pan, Hello Fire, which is a newcomer's experience to Toronto. Several people have told me this is their story. And these are Canadians, white Canadians who moved from BC or moved from a small town near Niagara. And these people told me the experiences in this book were their experiences. They came here, they didn't know anybody, they didn't know how to settle. Many of the experiences, just any newcomer, even white Canadians. So one girl who's an artist, she lives north of Aurora. When she read the book, she said, I moved from small town, British Columbia, to the GTA. This is my experience. So when I heard that, I thought, wow.
Wow.
That was significant. That's another aha moment.
Is there something in that book that you can share and you want to read for us? In that book, you notice I didn't ask about the red car and the long legs book, but is there any little something in that book that you would like to share with us and our viewers?
Okay, you mean in Goodbye Frying Pan, Hello Fire?
Yeah, is that the one, or is it Escape from Ireland? Any of those two?
Any of them, okay.
Whatever rocks your spirit.
Right, well, I could tell you a story without reading it. When
bring it on. This is good.
Yes, when I first entered Yonge and Bloor subway, it was early one morning, 8 a.m. I was staying out near Hamilton and coming into Toronto to look for jobs and to look for a place to live. but I was living out, I was staying in a motel in an area near to Hamilton, and just taking the train into Toronto. And so from what I saw online, I had to change subways at Yonge and Bloor. So I came out and I looked around and there were hundreds of people, but there was silence. And for me, it was like being in a movie or some strange Twilight Zone. How could there be hundreds and hundreds of people and nobody was talking? It was at around 8 in the morning. And so for me, that was one of the most frightening experiences. Because if it was in Ireland, remember, I just moved from Ireland, everybody would be blah, 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 blah. If it was the Caribbean, music, blah, 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 blah. And there was silence. It was frightening.
Wow, that's an interesting observation.
Now I'm used to it, but the first time, I just couldn't understand it. Because I guess, you know, Canadians are very quiet. They don't want anybody to disturb the peace. It was truly frightening.
Wow.
So that's one thing I wrote about in the book.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that is a theme that goes throughout the book, I couldn't find a job. I had all these qualifications. I had international work experience. And throughout the book, I talk about not being able to find a job because I didn't have Canadian work experience. That was one thing. Or I was supposedly overqualified. And so I went through all sorts of hoops. So throughout the book, I talk about this, can't find a job, can't find a job. So I had to be creative to make money, you know, selling at Harbourfront Center and all these different things with all the qualifications. Could not get a job. So I talk about that repeatedly. And, you know, like I even went to a refugee center one time for the staff there to look at my resume and tell me what was wrong. And so they went through it. They said, you know, if the job is advertised, they say bachelor's degree with 5 years experience. That's what you put on, you make a resume with that. I say, but no, I have a PhD and I have 20 years experience. They say, no, don't put that because you cannot get the job if you put that. You know, you have to be kind of like lesser than the hiring manager to be hired or else they'll be threatened. And so that's all right. These concepts I put throughout the book because they were very strange concepts. I just couldn't understand it. It wasn't like that when I worked in the United States because they wanted, you know, the better the qualifications at that time that I worked in the US, you know. It was quite competitive and the better your skills, the higher the chance of getting a job. But here, no. So I talk about that repeatedly in the book, all different sections. And one friend said, dumb down to get the job. So I have a chapter about dumbing down to get the job and who you know and all that. So it's a purveying, it's a theme throughout the book. Mm-hmm. Really is.
What was the turning point? What then became the aha moment when you got the first job doing the thing that you were trained for, highly trained, highly skilled, and somebody thought, you know what, to hell with this. This woman, she's coming with game. She is going to make us look good. What was that moment?
Well, I'll tell you how it happened through the choir. The choir I joined had a fundraising event and I was unemployed. And so the chairman of the board was walking around. Choir had to sing, you know, at the event, a small group of us. It was a fundraising activity, so not everybody was there, just a lot of hoi polloi and donors. So I went to the chairman of the board. I said, hi, I've moved here and I'm here for like more than 6 months and I can't find a job. And he looked at me, he said, well, he invests in several different companies. Send my resume and he'll see what he could do. So it was through the choir that I spoke to the chairman. And because he is an investor in many different companies, one food company that he invested in, he said he would contact the president and see if they were hiring anybody. So I sent him my resume and I was able to get an appointment with the president of this food company. And I went to speak with him. He said at the moment they didn't need anybody, but he'd keep my resume on file. And then about 3 months later, they were able to interview me and give me a position. Now, I didn't stay there too long for many reasons, but it happened, quite by accident and not because I applied, the normal channels. Another thing I pursued, I got a teaching opportunity at Centennial College. They were just starting a food science program. And when I went on their website, I said, well, maybe I could teach. So I went on the website of several colleges and I saw Centennial was just starting a food science program. And the head of department had an Irish name, right? So I said, oh, I'm going to tell him that I just moved here from Ireland and he needs to hire me. So I did. I set up an appointment. His name was Patrick Hennessy. And I got an appointment with him. I went all the way up to the Morningside campus. And I went and I chat about Ireland and all that. I don't know if he had ever been. He's probably third generation. But anyway, I told him all that I could. So he gave me a contract to design 2 courses for their new program and then to teach the courses. So I talked my way into that job. Yakety yak.
Yeah.
And
but yeah, yes. But you know what it is? It is what you have demonstrated throughout the interview and my time with you. You've got a skill set and you're confident about that skill set. And that skill set comes out of the world of science. So there's a number of absolute things happen in there. So I'm absolutely sure that in earning all the way up to my doctorate, I'm coming with game. This is not something that, has been given to me. I have earned it.
Yes.
And it is that confidence that we are hearing and we're seeing that you're bringing to the game. Not just a question of talking into it, but I'm from the Caribbean. I'm from a region of greatness. I've paid my dues. And so I'm coming with game. And what I'm taking away with me too is the persistence and the consistency that you brought to your life and the work that you do.
Yes, yeah, and you really have to be persistent because, the current situation here, I think is a recession, although the government wouldn't say so. Not many opportunities for young people, graduating from university and all that. So if we have any young people listening to this, I think it's really important to see how you can develop your own business, if possible, something that you like to do. How can you convert that into generating income for yourself? Because the jobs are not really there. You have to create your own job. Something that you like to do, find a way to, and it's not easy. You get knocked down constantly. I'm not constantly happy, but I try. It's wow. You have to just be tenacious.
You talked to about
try this, try that, try something else. You just never know what will work.
You talked about entering some of the art competitions or shows, and over the years you were turned down, but you just kept
constantly
at that. Someday,
constantly turned down.
Someday that door is going to be kicked down. That door's got to open for me, right? And also, what I've seen is that when doors open for you, you just didn't go through them only alone, but you also worked in collaboration with other artists on visual arts projects and different things like this. This is what we see you do. I am very privileged to know you, Jennylynd James. You represent a particular freedom, your positive outlook for life. And when people talk about balancing art with other things, art with science, here's a good way of where you have shown us how that balance can be created. What's your favorite song? And you better be able to sing 2 lines of it as we go out of this literary session with Jennylynd James.
Before I sing anything, I wanted viewers to know I have a new book coming up. It's my first novel.
Is this breaking news? Is this breaking news right here on ABC TV? Oh,
that's right. It's called Mrs. Somebody, What She Did for That Ring.
Woo.
So it's my first novel, because remember all the other books so far were memoirs.
That's right.
This one is fiction, but it's based on true stories. So it's a dating story. 5 girls who meet in university. One is actually from Barbados, but the others are different ethnic groups, because I'm mixing it up a bit, okay? You know, like Turkish, all different kinds. But one is from Barbados. And so some girls meet in university and they try to find Mr. Right. One does, and then the others move on to the working world and they still look for Mr. Right. So lots of dating stories, jokes galore, and some serious stuff too. The lengths some women would go to find Mr. Right. So I plan to launch this book on August 9th. Facebook Live. Mrs. Somebody, What She Did for That Ring. So please keep that in mind. Okay,
a moment there, I thought I was having my own personal temperature, but it is really that my body was sensing the sensational stuff and the titillating stuff that may be coming in there.
Lots of sensational stuff in here.
That's why I'm fanning. It's not because I'm hot, but because my body picked up the juice that's going to be in the book that is coming.
Yes.
So, and remember, folks, that you can go to right outside of Kipling subway, Bloor Street West, to a street called Auckland. And there you're going to see Jennylynd's piece, which is part of the beauty
inside
the box, and you can take your selfies there. And also too, stay tuned for Facebook on Sunday, which is the 26th of the month on Facebook Live. Jenny is going to be reading from The Red Car and Long Legs book and that journey of her time in America. So she's going to take us out.
Check out my website.
Yes. And
JennylyndJames.com.
Buy the art, support the art. I've got my eyes on what's on the wall. So after I come off the recording, I'm going to have to cut a deal with her. But she's going to take us out now with that favorite song and give us a little tinkle, tinkle so we could hear maybe the soprano. I don't know, world, but hey.
Well, the first thing comes to mind is a folk song from Tobago. How about that?
We're coming full circle.
You know, Mr. John Boulay, Tim Bam, that man from Charlottesville. Tim Bam, he owe me $1 bill. Tim Bam, he owe me for something. Tim Bam, you ever see such a man before? Tim Bam, you ever hear such a man before? Tim Bam, he jump on the jackass back. Tim Bam, throw over he right foot. Tim Bam, throw over he left. Tim Bam, he shake he waist, rega 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 Tim Bam, he shake he hand, rega 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 Tim Bam, he shake he head, rega 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 Tim Bam, oh yo ho, rega 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 Tim Bam, rega 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 Tim Bam.
There you go. And all the time I thought it was red plastic bag.
JennylyndJames.com. Check out my website. The art, the books, is all on my website, JennylyndJames.com.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure and a privilege to have you on a different Booklist Cultural Center TV on our literary salon. And please support Jennylynd James wherever you see her pop up, with her books and with her art. And remember, she's got mad skills, and there's so many skills too that we can work with her as community, as Canadians in this society, as we speak to the pandemics and of course to COVID. Enough respect, and we look forward.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity.